Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How is everyone over to this location? Can you hear me all?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good afternoon.
All right,
Yes.
afternoon. All right. Before I start, I'll briefly let me just quickly switch to my slide and I. Okay, can you see the slide? Okay, nice. So we welcome you all to Android 11 Meetup, Mina, and this is a collaborative event between GDG Cloud Minna, DSC FUT Minna, and DSC IBUPI and Women Techmakers Minna. And for today's agenda, without wasting much time, we will starting with the introduction, which that's what I'm doing now, and Pius will talk about what's in Android. And InSICAG will walk us through how to handle periodic token using refresh. We are refresh using Work Manager. He will explain more about how Work Manager works and the token itself. And then there will be a question and answer and introductions. So the next thing is I'm going to introduce Pius. Pius, he's an Android developer. And he's a founder of Blue Space Hub at Makurdi, and he's the organizer for Makurdi. Welcome, Pius. And I have Insikak here with me, which he's going to talk about the token refresh with Work Manager. He's an Android developer, leading mobile team at Start Hub and Alta Labs. So I will hand over to Pius. Pius, are you available?
Yeah, thank you, Umar.
Okay, let's get started. So let's hear what's new on Android.
All right. So
I'm sorry for your information. I forgot to ask. This call is being recorded. So after the whole thing, we'll upload it to YouTube for those that won't be able to join.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to present my screen now.
Okay.
Okay. So I guess you can see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it.
All right. So good afternoon, everyone. Once again, my name is Pius, just like Umar introduced. The founder of a small innovation hub here in Benue State, Nigeria. I'm also the organizer of GDG Makurdi. So that's much about me. I'm an Android developer. So today I'm going to be walking us through what's new in Android. That's like what is new in Android 11. So quickly, we'll just dive into that. Okay, so what's new? We're going to be looking at it from tools. What are the new tools? What's new in the operating system itself, like Android 11? And we're going to also look at libraries. What's new? What are the new libraries that we have? So the first part we're going to be looking at is UI, the user interface. What has changed in Android 11 in the department of user interface? So the first thing and the most obvious one and one of the most exciting new things that change in the UI is Windows Inset. Now, Windows Inset has to do with things like status bar, navigation bar, and keyboard. Other UI elements that your app actually interacts with, things that actually share the screen with your app, something like the status bar and the navigation, button navigation. That's the UI system navigation rather. So things like that, they make up the system insets. So Now, in Android 11, there's going to be more information about those elements. In the past, the APIs that existed, they tell you things about the status bar, the system UI navigation, and other things like that. But in Android 11, there's going to be more information about those elements. So those elements, like I've mentioned earlier, status bar, navigation, and IME, which is input method entry, like things like keyboard. So this is basically a code that has a listener, and this listener is what's going to help you tell what's happening on a certain insert. And from this code here, what you have here is this is a variable that is going to store the state of the keyboard, whether the keyboard is visible or not. So the code you see here is another if statement just to verify whether the keyboard is visible. And with this information, as a developer, your app cannot behave in a different way. In Android 11, your app can tell whether keyboard is visible and you can make the app behave in a different way. So with these two, things like keyboard, when they come up with an animation. Like when you type on a edit text, this talk is mostly going to be developers related stuff. So you hear things like edit text and the rest. If you're really just an Android user, just still hang along. So things like animations, when keyboards come up, they come up with animations. So that's what this IME animation is about. So with Android 11, this has been improved. Like in the past, if you're using an older version of Android, like a stock Android, maybe the OEM didn't make any further modification like that. If you're using that kind of an Android, if you tap on the keyboard, if you tap on a edit text, usually the keyboard just comes out. It just appears once. There isn't much animation, anything slick happening there. So since in Android 11, you can listen for changes, you can actually make your app respond in a more smooth way than just having everything pop up. You can also even control the animation for the keyboard when it's coming up. You can actually control the animation even within your app. So what you have here, these animations you're seeing here, this explains what I've been trying to explain. What you have to your left-hand side, this is the natural animation for the keyboard coming up. Now, our app has been built thanks to this new window insect in Android 11. Our app has been built such that the list on our app is responding. The list is scrolling up. It's not just jumping and appearing up there. There's an animation as if the keyboard is actually pushing the list up. So that's one new thing Android 11 brings in. Then on the right-hand side, this is actually our app controlling the animation for the keyboard. Now we can actually swipe on our edit text up, and the keyboard comes out following the animation. Thanks to the power of Android 11, the new APIs in Android 11, you can actually swipe on. So probably you might start seeing things like this in apps, or updates to some of our favorite apps, such that you can actually swipe the edit text where you type the message and the keyboard just comes out instead of just tapping on it. So that's one new opportunity Android 11 brings in. I hope we can hear me. I'm audible enough. Hello, Uma.
Yeah, Pius, I can hear you. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, great. So that is it with IME animation. So over here, I don't know why this is blank, because this is supposed to show you some instance of the code. Okay, yeah. So over here, we're going to look at the code for this. So this is the code that handles this. This is the code that handles this whole animation. We won't be looking at code very deeply, but if you read through the code, or if you get the slide and you look at it, you'll see how this animation is being done. And this is also the code for this second animation, whereby in this example, you're actually controlling the animation of the keyboard. In the other one, you're listening for when the keyboard is coming out. In the previous slide, you're listening for when the keyboard is coming out and you're animating your app. But in this instance, you're actually reading the code on your app. This code here, you're animating the keyboard. So that's IME animation. So if you want more about the new window inserts API. You can follow this link to get more, to look at samples and others. So that's a link to that. Now, the next thing that's new in Android 11, it's conversations. Now, notifications has been modified. A new term have come to notification. I think in most Android devices we use currently in the market, notifications are usually grouped into maybe important and others. Now, a new group has been added. That group is called conversation. So with conversation, it is assumed that you care more about notifications that from people sending you messages than an app send you its own spammy stuff. If we get a lot of that, some apps just want you to know that, hey, I'm still here, so they send you notifications. So now to keep those unnecessary stuff, unwanted spam notification, and keep what's important, what's more important, bring it closer to you. There's the conversation now. There's a conversation section in the notifications, and even that section is given higher priority. So that's what you can see in this screenshot here. Now, when you long tap on a conversation, you can also modify the settings, like set the priority or mute that particular conversation. So this is conversation. Now we're going to look at how conversation is being implemented. So to implement conversations, you need to create a new person. So you use the person builder in the API to create a new person. Then you also create a shortcut info. So in the shortcut info, you specify the person, insert person, the person you've created initially, you set it there. Then you supply your shortcut information using .push dynamic shortcut, and you can also do your normal notification stuff like setting the style, and the style also takes the person, and so on. So this is normal stuff you do in your notification, and you set shortcut ID. Then the next thing that's still very much related to bubbles, to notification, is bubbles. So in Android, in the previous versions of Android, there's a system called system alert window. We've seen these floaty widgets before if you use things like Facebook Messenger or something like that. But so Android 11 brings a whole new API for this, which is called bubbles. So your notifications can pop up as a bubble like this on the screen, and it can be anywhere on the screen. And when you tap on it, it can open a mini activity like this where you can view, maybe it's a chat, you can view the message and even reply. So that's bubbles. And bubbles, the good thing about bubbles is not totally independent. You don't need to implement it on different level completely, because it works with notifications. And bubbles also was introduced in Android 10, just that in Android 10, bubbles was hidden. It's under the developers option. So for regular end users that don't enable developers option on their device, they might not actually get a feel of that. So in Android 11, bubbles is going to ship with Android 11. So every Android 11, the device is going to have bubbles. So as a developer, when you build your app, feel free to implement bubbles for your notifications, and your users will definitely just get it out of box and start using it. And bubbles is actually better than system alert windows because of the fact that it's integrated the notification. It's that same notification you're sending that is going to be on the notification bar. That's actually, you just specify metadata, and it's going to enable bubbles. So like I've mentioned, it's created with the notification API, just about metadata. And you can also set a dedicated activity. That is the activity that's going to show some details when the bubble is tapped. So this is a manifest information for a bubbles activity. So what's special about it is you need to enable this resizable activity. You need to set it to true. And definitely you don't want action bar and all that. So this is how to specify information for your bubbles activity in your manifest. And to set up a bubble, this is a code. You just create an intent to point to that your bubble activity that you already created that's going to have the code that's doing all the bubble stuff. Create pending intents like you do for notification. and you create shortcut. And also, this is the most important part, which is a bubble metadata. You try to create a bubble metadata, and at the end of the day, you also pass it into your notification like you do. So if you want to learn more about the things that have changed in system UI or bubbles, you can go to if you're an Android developer and you're used to the official user interface samples, I think it's github.com/android/user interface. So there's a new branch now that contains sample codes for bubbles. So you can check that branch, the code in Kotlin. So with that, we're done with bubbles, and the next part we're going to be looking at is privacy. So a lot of things has changed in Android 11 in terms of privacy for so many good reasons. I'm personally excited about some of the things. Even as a developer, I still feel, yeah, it's okay to give people this level of privacy, because most creepy apps really want your data. They are not really happy about some kind of new privacy features. But as a developer, I'm excited about some of these new privacy stuff that are in Android 11. So the first one here is data access auditing. Now, as a developer, Google Play Store has a feature that checks whether an app is malicious or not. Maybe you could genuinely want to build an app that it's a good app. It's not stealing anybody's data. It's not anything malicious, but you're using third-party libraries. So what if these third-party libraries are actually using accessing data that you are not using, and that's sending it to the publisher or the team behind the library? So with data access auditing, Android 11 now helps the developer to know what is using what, who is using what data. So with that, that's what data access auditing does. It coordinates who is using locations, contacts, or microphone, which part of the code is actually doing this. So this is a huge plus for developers if you're really, really concerned about like shipping the most secure apps out there for your users. So how it works, there's a callback, and when user permission is required for data, there's a callback, and that callback is what's going to trigger the data access auditing. So here's a sample code that explains that. You can dive deep into it by looking at the official documentations, and also probably when the samples become available on the Android samples repository. So the next thing we dive into is one-time permission. Now, I would have loved for this meeting to be as interactive as possible. Don't have less than 12 minutes to go. But here's it. If you've used an X40 phone before, when I mean S40, there's an operating system that was called S40 in the days of Java, like all those Java phones back then. If you download a file explorer, if you want to open a folder, it will say allow. You might have seen those annoying permissions, or if you used to go, if you are very old like some of us, if you used to go, if you want to change your profile picture, you see a dialogue saying, hey, allowed to go to access before you get out. So this is something close to that. So in Android 11 now, Android will have a pop-up that the user can select only this time. So I'm going to allow this application to use my location this time. Maybe I'm using Uber, the Uber app, and it needs my location in order to lock my GPS and all that. I can say, but that's a bad example. I can say just this time. Yeah, I get my location just this time. A weather app. I've just moved from Otuko to Makurdi, or from Makurdi to Minna, and I can just say, oh, let my weather app use my location just this one time, so it knows I'm in Minna and it gives me weather for Minna. And after that, the app is not doing any creepy thing in the background, monitoring where I go and not that. So this is a plus. And background location, Android 11 is restricting how apps you get your background while they are running get your location while the app is running in the background. And foreground services, initially in Android, if you're going to be using services like location, you need to specify it in the manifest. So with Android 11, things have changed, and Android 11 has added camera, microphone. It has added basically camera and microphone to this. So if your app is going to be using foreground services, you need to specify, even if it's for camera, this camera, you need to specify in the manifest like you do for location in the past. Then this is a sample code for requesting foreground services in your manifest. And also, other things that have changed in terms of privacy is package visibility. Like an app can't just tell all the apps that are installed can't just read the device to tell all the apps that are installed on that device. The app needs to specify in its manifest which apps it's just searching for the package for. So that's what package visibility restriction is. There's scope storage, like how developers and apps can access the storage on the device. And there's a third one, which is auto reset permission. You could download an app maybe 2 years ago and you allow that app to use your location or some other services on your device. After a long time, Android 11 is going to notice that, hey, you've not been using this app, but this app is trying to still use this location. So it's going to reset that permission. The app actually needs to explicitly ask you for your location before it can still do that. So that's what auto reset locations will do. So now move to this section. I have 9 minutes left. What are the goodies for developers? I would have said everything so far we've looked at actually for developers, but these are developers specific. Now, if there's anything I don't like about building mobile apps, is the amount of work required to test your app when you make changes, connect your phone or start an emulator and all that. So now if you're debugging the physical device, Android 11 is going to bring support for Wi-Fi debugging. Like you can just hit that green play on Android Studio while your laptop is connected to your device via Wi-Fi and you can debug. So that's awesome. So you don't have to have this scene like many USB cables connected to your device or dongles if you use a Mac device, because Apple is just trying to add everything as an attachment so you buy. You don't need all that again. So this is the interface for Wi-Fi debugging. Another new thing for developers is nullability annotations. When you write Java, you know, annotations, someone said that everything's annotations in Java. Kotlin somehow Java. So now those annotations, they are annotations for nullability, like there's at nullable, this particular thing can be null, at non-null, this can't be null. So what annotations do is at compile times, those conditions are checked. The app doesn't need to get to your device before it crashes. So 2 new annotations for nullability has been added to Android 11 for developers, which one is at recently nullable, the next one is recently non-nullable. So these ones, they're only going to show you warnings when you try to compile. They won't just give you a compile error. They're just going to show warnings your compilation will push through. But what exists with nullable and non-nullable is if the conditions are not met, your compilation is going to just end up in an error. So that's what this brings. Another new thing for developers is crash reasons reporting. It's very important to know why your app crashed. So the APIs in Android 11 is bringing new ways for you to tell why your app crashed. So even crash reporting, if you are building a very small app, sometimes your app is on place and people are installing your app, you don't know why, because maybe it's not crashing on your own device and it's crashing for some of your users. So with better crash reporting, you could see which device, what version of Android, what some other parameters on the user's device, and that could help you with fixing that crash. So this is how the code for this works. The code for this looks. And another new thing in Android 11 is autofill. Now, when you're browsing a website and they ask for your email, when you start typing, usually if you've typed that before, there's going to be a drop down that shows you suggestions and all that. So autofill contents are coming to keyboard in Android 11. It's not just going to be a drop down when you're typing on that text field. It's going to be on the keyboard, just how you get suggestions on your keyboard. And also password apps are also going to get that. And one thing, Android, while doing this, the Android developers team, they've put security in mind. So these keyboard apps, they are not really getting the data they're displaying. They're only giving them access to an interface to display the data. Them themselves, they're not really giving access to the data directly. So you don't have to worry about that. So this screenshot shows this autofill we just mentioned in our slide. So this is the password for this guy on his. This is his password, his account that he has saved in a password saving application or the browser. So it's the password. So instead of him probably tapping and getting a drop down to choose it right from the keyboard, the moment he taps on that text field, the keyboard is going to bring it just like autofill from our keyboard. So that's awesome. That's coming to Android 11. So these are more examples. This is a card field, and you can see suggestions for the person's card is coming up. So awesome, address, and so on. So this is also code to show the implementation of this in your apps, in case you have a keyboard app, and for password. So in 4 minutes, non-platform. These are things that are not part of the Android operating system, specifically the outside the platform. For example, we have Android Studio. So what's new in Android Studio? We now have, if you're an Android developer, you know, we now have Android Studio version 4.0 on the stable channel, which you can download. If you Google Android Studio, that's the version you're going to see on the download page. And that brings motion editor, it brings layout inspector, and Android 4.1 beta is also available for those that use Android Studio from the beta channel. And that beta brings database inspection. So you can now inspect room database or SQL-like database. This is something that I spend a lot of time trying to use File Explorer to locate the database, bring it out, connect it to another application to read whether my app is even writing the correct data or something, just to debug. So it's great that the next stable release of Android Studio might bring this in. But if you can use the beta, the current beta version for 4.1 also has that feature, so you can start checking it out. If you're on the Canary channel, the wireless debugging we mentioned earlier, it's fully supported in the Canary channel for 4.2. And also there's Jetpack Compose there. It's a new UI tool for Android development. We look forward to that. And with that, I've come to the end of this. If you want to see the videos, the official videos from the Android teams, you can use that link there, google.gle/Android 11. You can get the videos for all the awesome announcements, like the things you see on the right-hand side. And also the Android teams, they are running a program they're calling 11 weeks of Android. So in those 11 weeks of Android, this is like the calendar for that. They're going to be talking about things like people, which we looked at initially, people, identity, machine learning, privacy, security, Android 11 compatibility, game, media, and so much more. So you can also follow the link here to get more insights on that and learn more about that. And also, we're already at one of these Android 11 meetups here. So you can also join other meetups via this link. And here are other resources via the Android Developers Medium publication. You can also check it out. And thank you all for listening.
That was awesome. Thank you, Pius.
You're welcome.
You still have like, I think, 10 minutes. So I don't know, can we just use that for question and answer? Then we'll quickly jump into the next session. Does anybody has a question? Anybody? Anyone?
Okay.
Okay, if no one, okay. Pius, this is, I have a question here. It's just one question. Regarding the one-time permission.
Yeah.
Why now? Did something happen? Why now? Why are they bringing it now? What happened to when it was in Lollipop, Marshmallow? Why now?
Okay. One thing I'm going to say about one-time permission. I don't know if. Let me see. who most of us here probably we use Java phones, so other people can dive in this conversation. Let it not just be between me and you. I'm
Yes,
going to
yes,
ask a
yes.
question. I'm going to ask a question, and someone that is not you is going to answer that question. How many of us here use To Go or Blue FTP? Someone that is not Uma. There's an app called Blue FTP. It's a Java app.
I use all those things. I use all those things
So I just
before.
want someone else. Can someone unmute themselves or just say in chat? So Philip, did you use Blue FTP? I can see on the chat, I can see me too. Is that what you are saying? Oh, great. So Philip, when you use Blue FTP, you notice that when you want to view a new folder or delete a file or add or create a new file, you notice Blue FTP is going to bring you a pop-up. Like it's going to bring a pop-up asking you for allow. Did you notice something like that? So those things are annoying, Uma. Naturally, those things are annoying. Like every single page you open, an app is asking for permission, an app is asking for permission. Maybe you're even trying to do a very long thing, a task that takes a lot of time, and you drop your phone and you leave. You come back and what you see is a dialogue. Maybe that dialogue has been there for 1 hour and you thought your process was actually working for an hour. You get it? But meanwhile, it
Yeah.
was hooked with just that dialogue. So it's annoying. It's for this is my opinion, Sha, but it's annoying. So that's probably why the modern smartphones, after the Java phones era, the modern smartphones, they ignore that. Initially in Android, there is even no permission dialogue. There is none. You just specify
Yeah.
your permission in manifest, and when the user is installing the app, it's going to be listed that this app is going to use this, use this. Once he installs, it's assumed he has accepted all those permissions. Then it's from Android, I think Lollipop or 6.0.1, that this whole dialogue thing came out where app will ask you to accept permission. When you accept this one time, as in once you've accepted for the rest of that app's lifetime, it's going to have that permission until you go to settings and disable it. So that's one. Probably Google has noticed that some people will not even read that thing very well and they accept it. So now they are bringing the concept whereby you have to see that pop up and you know what is this app trying to do? Like an app just brings a pop up to your face. I want to use the camera, and maybe you're in your bathroom. Like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with my camera right now? Do you get it? So I think that's one of the reasons why it's coming right now, and it still has its own disadvantages. I believe it has its own disadvantages. The fact that it's annoying, but maybe we can prefer it. It's a world where privacy is becoming so it's an issue. So I think probably it's now worth it. We would rather have those annoying instances than maybe have our data leaked.
Okay. Well, there are some apps. There are some very annoying apps that when you install them, maybe like they are using about 4 or 5 permissions on your phone. The moment you install it, they will just start asking you use your camera, use your Bluetooth, use your Wi. It will start asking you 5, and I think that thing is somehow, I don't know, stressful for me. There is what they call permission design, where
Yeah.
instance to do that you only trigger it when the user wants to use it, not at the beginning. You start asking the user, maybe you have about 5 permissions, you begin asking them to allow, and that's sometimes annoying.
Yeah, so I can say that is a UX problem. I can say that's a UX problem. Like actually building an app where at the first launch of the app, you're already like asking the user for maybe this app is well like maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's a social networking app, you understand? And at the first instance, the person is opening the app, you're asking that person for allow this app to read your phone book, to make phone calls, to read your emails. If you start throwing all that to the person at once, I think it's going to actually look annoying and even suspicious to the person. You get it?
Exactly.
So I think that it's better you actually separate all those consents to when the user really wants to do that thing, then you can show him just that particular permission for that. I think like you said.
Okay. Thank you very much. Any other questions before we move on? Any questions? Questions? Okay, in the absence of none, I will move to the next session, which I will. Isikak, are you ready? Hi, Isikak.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
Good. Yeah, I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Pius, thank you for that amazing session. Android 11 is going to be very, very exciting people don't have to write all of the custom things around bubbles and all of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll be going ahead to share my screen right now. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we can see your slide.
Okay. Good afternoon. So my name is Nsikak Thompson. I'm excited to join you guys for the Android 11 meetup. And so today I'll be talking about how to handle a periodic token refresh using Work Manager. So just not really much about myself. So I'm a mobile developer. So I'm fortunate enough to lead two mobile teams. So one at Start Hub Tech and the other one at Alta Labs, and also co-lead GDG Minna. And I'm a very proud beginner Flutter developer. You guys will not understand what it means to be a proud beginner Flutter developer. Um, for those who have tried Flutter, it's amazing. Okay, so has anyone had any reason to handle the tags in the background? Anybody? Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yeah,
hear. We can
sure.
hear
Sure. We've had reasons to handle tax in
a
background.
lot.
Okay, so what did you use? How did you go about it? I know there are lots of other APIs. There is one from Evernote. And what did you use?
I think like back then, just runnable, the default one in Java, like runnable to move things to another trade and probably implement a delay.
Okay, so okay, great. How about tags you needed to run like even when the user is not active on the device? Any other person? Okay, we'll just go ahead. So we've talked about what you've used. So anyone familiar with Work Manager? Anyone has used Work Manager before to do anything? Anyone? So we might be commenting on this comment section. Okay. All right. So it's like no one has used Work Manager before. Okay. Most mobile apps, for the ones I work with, they use a kind of token-based authentication as a security technique, and they use this as a way of authenticating the user who is trying to communicate with their server. And most times, this token have a duration where it lasts, so it could expire after a particular duration. So this usually like a duration set from a backend service the app is talking to, and the user will not be able to access the server if this token expires. So sometimes the token have a validity period of like 1 minute, 2 minutes, 60 minutes, 1 day, 2 days. So what we are going to look at is how do we make sure that the user always have a refresh token. So a refresh token is that the user should always have available the token for him to be able to use to access the server. Okay, so no user is happy to see this. So this is like an app that we built, and we had this issue when the token expires and the user tries to make a request to the server. We kind of have an error that says authentication failed and invalid token. So things like that, makes it a bit very difficult for the users to continue with what they have to do. So we don't want our users to face these issues, and we always want to make them go ahead and be happy using the app. So so what we're going to look at today is what is Work Manager, how to set a Work Manager, create a work request, schedule token update with Work Manager, and check if the token has expired. When the user launches the app and all of that. So Work Manager is an API as part of the Android Jetpack library. So it helps you run schedule jobs that meet a particular constraint that's been defined by you. So when you create a job that runs in the background, you're able to give it constraints. You can also change jobs. So change job is like having, let's say you're trying to upload an image and you need to resize the image, you need to blur the image, you need to also upload the image to the server. So that could be like 3 jobs. But in our case, we are not using work chain. We're just having just one job, which is to refresh the token. So Work Manager also like is compatible to backward compatible to API level 14. So if you could see the diagram on my screen, so we'd actually been able to know that, if the API is 23 and above, it uses the alarm manager and the broadcast receiver, which most of us are familiar with. If yes, it goes ahead to like the job scheduler. So this one helps you manage the kind of job that you want to run, understanding the device API level. So you don't have to care about if this is going to fail in API 16 or API 19 and all of that. Okay, so we're going to dive into some concepts of Work Manager. And one of them is the work itself. So this is used to define what you really want to do by creating a worker class. And in the worker class, you override a method called do work. So this is where you handle the synchronous background task. And this method returns a result. So the results have like the state of work. So it could either be success, it could be failure, it could be retry. So if you really want to maybe retry if network failed, you can like want to retry the work. So you listen to the results and know what to act at a particular time. So mind you, this actually works even when the user is not on the app. So this happens in the background through. Um, so the next thing is work requests. So this is basically how you want to run your job with Work Manager. So we have one-time work request, we have periodic work request. So one time is you want to do something once and that's all. But for periodic, it's like you want to do it at interval, maybe 2 minutes, every 2 minutes, every 3 minutes, every 1 hour. And but in our case, we are using that to handle the periodic work request for updating our token. So now this is like the login process for the apps that I've worked on that uses this kind of system. So the user logs in with the email and password, and the login is successful. It returns the user information, which has a token and a refresh token. So this token that is returned to you at login expires after 60 minutes. So we save the token. You can prefer save in database or shared preference, and also the time the user logged in, because that will help us to validate when the token has expired. Then the user goes ahead to use the token he has gotten a login to make request. So now, how do you set up Work Manager? Because the user has logged in, but we need to also keep refreshing the token that we don't ask the user to give password and email every time. So it's simple. For most of us are really familiar with how Android works. Always have to add a dependency to enter the library. So we have like a dependency for Java only, for Kotlin coroutines, and there's another one for RX Worker, which if you're familiar with RX Java, you can use that. So there was a link for you to get that on the slide. So you go ahead to create the worker class. So this is where you're going to define the worker you're going to tell the app that, oh, when the token expires, at the interval you're going to give to it, please update the user token. So now this is where the magic actually happens. So first, we check if the user is logged in. If the user is logged in, we get the user information that we stored in our cache, and we call the API. So the API requires two things, which is the email and the refresh token we got at login. So these like basically some snippets from an Average Java structure. So if you're not really familiar with Average Java, don't really want to spin your head around. So just understand that. So if you could see, so I fetch the user information and into a Flatma completable, which is like trying to perform another action, and then it's being subscribed to scheduler. I also like a background thread to handle the work, and I observe for the work on the main thread because we need to know when the token was successful, and we also need to know when it fails. So when it's subscribed successfully, it returns the result of success. It means that, oh, your token was refreshed successfully. So the result is actually what tells the work manager the status of your work. So if it is successful or it has failed. So, but for me, I would say that work manager has made it more easier for people to handle background tasks. Like I've been using some kind of libraries like job scheduler from Evernote and some other ones, broadcast receivers. But I think Work Manager gives me that leverage to just do it, and the setup is simple, and you're able to listen to the results. And there's another thing that if you check the documentation, you see that you're able to listen to the results using live data. Most of you are familiar with live data. So so let's move ahead. So we, at this point, we are going to create our work request. We have created our worker class that handles the logic of hitting the server to get a new token. So this is where you specify the interval at which you want this work to run. So I want this work to run every 15 minutes. The token expires in 60 minutes, but we want it to refresh in 50 minutes. Now, what this helps us is that we get a fresh token before it actually expires. So this helps you, be ready for your users, keep them up to date with like a new token so that you can't really tell what will happen. The user could just, want to do some stuff, and network is one of the things you consider. So if you want to refresh it when it has expired already, it's possible that something might happen. So you using 15 minutes help us like try to get the token earlier before it expires. So the next thing is to add constraint. So constraint is where you specify at which points do you want this work to run. So in our case, we are calling an API, right? So an API is basically like talking to a server. You require network connection. So we require network connection to be able to update a token. So we let the work manager know that you should not execute except the user has network connected to it. So in this case, we set the network constraint, and then we give the work request a tag using the builder. Give it a tag, we pass in the constraint, and we are good. So the final thing that we do, hello, can you guys hear me at all?
Yeah, we can hear
Very
you.
well. We can hear
Okay.
you.
Okay, so at the last point, this is where you actually tell work manager to start the work. So where we start the work is once the user logs in, we initiate the work using this. So the work manager gets the instance and EQs the work. So at this point, the work is running at the background, but it is not executed yet until the parameter of the interval is met, which is 50 minutes from when the work starts. So Now, this is basically what happens under the hood. So once it's 50 minutes, Work Manager hits the logic to call the API and get a new token. When the server returns the token and refresh token, so anytime you're refreshing, it always comes back with a new refresh token for you to refresh the token you just got in a future time. We update the local storage that we had saved the token, because the token is used every time the user wants to make a request, and the user has an active token to call the server at any time. So like today I was like checking the app and I never knew that my token expired today, and I just saw that Work Manager updated the token. So the user doesn't really know what's happening. I don't need to care to be checking for it or asking the user to log out and log in. So this just happens under the hood in the background, even when the user is not active on the app using Work Manager. So it's as simple as that. So there are lots and lots of resources, but I always recommend these two resources when you're trying to get started, because it helps you get into what you're doing with Work Manager quick, and also being able to help you explain the concepts, because that is one of the things you understand when you're trying to work with a library or a kind of library like Work Manager and others. So basically that's all. It's simple and I'm good. So thank you everybody for listening. I don't know if I still have time. So if I do, I will be available to answer questions for those who want to try a Work Manager, or you have something you want to do in the background that you think you can do with Work Manager. Be happy to answer your questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Insikak. Really appreciate it. Work Manager is really nice. I started using it when it first came out recently, when it was being introduced. I used it once, but I
Okay.
wasn't that too familiar. I just had to just switch back to job sheet. We are the one I'm used to. But now, from your talk now, I'm really much more convinced that it's easier, and I'll give it a try.
Great, 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 great,
Yeah.
great. So I think the way the documentation is even written is the Android team are really doing a great work, and thumbs up to them for that.
Good, good. So, any questions?
Yeah, I have one question. There was an instance where I tried using Work Manager. I actually test my apps on multiple devices, and I noticed that there's all this custom Android skin, like there are some OEMs put on their devices, especially most of these Chinese manufacturers, their phones like Techno. I noticed some phones where it's like Work Manager has issues getting started or even running at all. I don't know if you've experienced that working with the whole thing. You've had
Um,
instances like that.
no, I haven't. I have people working on me on the team that are using Techno phones. I don't use Techno phone, but I have someone that's working with me who uses a Techno phone, and it works well. So I don't know at which points did you use it. I think you should try the latest APIs. At the point it was in beta, so I think you should like look at it again. Um, the truth about most of the libraries is that the behaviors are always different in some devices. It's one of the things you always expect. But for me, I've not had that issue before. I've not had that issue before at all. But I will do more testing, and there are lots and lots of China devices these days. So hearing that, I will try to test on some other China devices and see if I'll be able to get anything, because we don't know the kind of devices our users are we used to get on it. So, but for me, I've not had that kind of issue.
All right, yeah, thanks.
Great, great. Any other questions?
Any questions? Okay, if there is none, I think I have about 4 here with me. So for a start, let me. Do you have like any like a demo code on GitHub that can make this thing easier for us
Okay.
here?
So the thing about this is So we're actually working on an article that we publish on the company's blog, and we will ship the source code with that. So we have like a staging kind of API that handles that. So I really have a demo code. So we'll push that. It should be out soon. When it's out, I will let us know. But for now, it's not a personal thing. I can't push it, So, but it will be out soon. When it's out, you'll be able to look at it. If I'm able to if I'm able to like have it a mock kind of API, I could just change it and make it available. But some restrictions that I can't hit it on my own because of. So I'll make it available. Yeah.
Okay. The other question is storing the token. Shared preferences database. Which one is preferable?
So the thing is, security is also one of the things, and two,
Yeah.
threading, right? So I store the token in the database because with the way it's encrypted, I'm kind of a bit secured on how I handle it. Shared preference will be very funny sometimes. For me, I use database. So the thing there is, shared preference will save the data for you, basically, to do the work. But I will ask you to use your database. Also, if you want to use shared preference, you can also encrypt it, right? So the token itself is not even saved in the raw token. So there's a kind of encryption because, like you said, things are running on your devices. You're using third-party libraries. Things may be funny. So the app I just showed is like a savings app. It has to do with money, it has to do with stock. So you can encrypt the token and store it in shared preference, no problem, right? So it's like an encrypted token, it still works, but you have to be very careful of security. I use the database, I use Roam database, so I don't use shared preference. So encrypt the token, you could store it, any of them that works for you, but try to make it secured. That's the paramount.
Okay. Thank you. The other question is, what makes it easier between job scheduler? Who makes it easier? I just want to ask.
For me, the setup is much easier, right? And the way he was able to be compatible with RX Java, which is like what I'm familiar with, it was like a quick blend for me. All right. I tried job scheduler, but the documentation was just taking me on a long thing. Like this, is like a personal experience. So I don't have to do much. I just have my worker. I set up my request. I give it the constraint, and I'm good. So I think for me, it's easier. I don't know what other people prefer, but for me, it's easier to set up. It's easier to observe for um, results. So I also talked about using live data to observe for your results, which is like one of the main, for those who have used live data before. So that's like why I choose to use Work Manager, and it's always been working for me. Yeah. So that's it. So my advice for devs is use what works for you. Trust me, use what works for you. Right. So I have been using Dagger with Kotlin. I've been using Java Dagger with Kotlin. I've not tried Coin. Not that Coin is bad, but I think I've understand Dagger for some points, right? So use what works for you. But trying Work Manager is a great thing.
Okay. Thank you. I think there was one meme I saw online. They showed someone holding a sword on a plate instead of using like a cutlery, so it's like in small knife using a sword. So they're like, okay, there is a simple solution. You are using all complex stuff to solve problems instead of using something simple to solve it. That's really nice. I like that.
Yeah.
So one final question. What do you have to say of banking apps? banking apps. Okay, like let me give you an example for GT Bank app. If you observe, when you log in, you leave it for some minutes, it will log you out and ask you to log you back in. The session has expired. So what do you say about that? Should it allow you to like remain logging and refresh token on the background, or it shouldn't log out because of security?
So that is a banking app actually. So logging you out is sometimes they don't use that to handle their token, right? So the apps that I've worked with, it's not really people moving money, making transfer. That's like different, right? So in that case, it depends on what they're doing. If logging in the user um, is what gets the token for user to use, like every single time user logs in, that is like their own like security. And like apps like Bata don't ask you to log in every time,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, but you have a pin, right? So that pin is what secures. It's always annoying every time I log out and log in. It's always annoying for me. That's why I use
Very.
Bata. I'm serious. Bata is like my primary account. I use Bata. So, but other people care about different experience. I just think the pin security in the app is enough. Don't ask me to log out every single time. I see a lot of some apps do that. A lot of apps do that. Some 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, some 30 seconds of the app, or sometimes 20 seconds of the app. They ask you to, sign in again. And so it depends on what you are actually protecting. So this may not work for every kind of um, apps. So apps like WhatsApp. So I spoke to an engineer in WhatsApp. I was like, hey, nobody logs in into WhatsApp every time. Does it mean that you guys like keep the session all through? They refresh the token. Facebook does the same thing. If you try to get into Facebook, do you observe that you spend some time on the splash screen kind of if you don't
Yes,
really
yes,
have a
yes.
strong internet? Do you know what happens? so I never really knew what happened, right? So those are like the kind of things. So, but for fintech apps, it depends. The use case might be different. The use case might be different. Apps like Uber. So the first time I tried this was on an app called Driver. So Driver is like an app that helps you get people to drive you in Lagos. I think now they are moved to logistics. So basically it's not a fintech app, so you can always refresh. So that's my take on that.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Any more questions? I think I have
Sure.
enough. Any more questions? NMD, Sunday, Jeremiah. We have Luther guys here.
Yeah, I said I'm a beginner Flutter developer. Please, if you are strong enough and you can mentor and you have time, please, I'm here.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, good afternoon.
Okay, so I shared a few questions on the Slido, but maybe it has not updated.
Okay, okay. I just saw it. I just saw it.
Okay, so
I just
probably
saw it.
just
So the first, yeah. So the first question is, are you with me, Sikak?
Yes, I am.
Okay. How do you manage multiple DB queries to fetch tokens as you store token in DB?
How do I manage multiple DB?
Let me
Sorry,
share. Let me share
multi.
it. Let me share it
I'm
so that
trying
you
to
see.
access the Slido. I'm trying to access the Slido.
Are you seeing it?
No, it's asking for the code, so I think I have to find the code. If you
No,
can share the code.
I just shared my screen now.
Okay.
Can you see the first question?
Okay. So how do you manage multiple DB queries? I don't know why I don't know understand what it means by multiple DB queries, because the the DB is only called once after 50 minutes. So I don't understand what it means by multiple. Um,
okay. Let me explain.
okay.
All right, so I just heard you say 50 minutes, like for
Yeah.
the expiration of the token.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's almost 1 hour.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, if because I was looking at the time constraint where you set it based on the use case now, because you can't, like you were explaining now, you can't use a use case of a logistics app for somebody who is doing cryptocurrency.
Yeah, yeah,
So doing doing a almost 1 hour on cryptocurrency could cost you a lot, if I'm not
yeah,
mistaken. So
yeah,
if that's the use, if that's the time constraint, okay, that's fine. Then because I was looking at the case, the whole refresh token. Once it expires, it goes again, stores, does some read and write, then brings back another fresh token. So I was now
yeah.
trying to, because I know some people are of the opinion that you store it on DB, and after I've spoken to someone that said if you store it on the DB, you should destroy it again.
Should destroy what? I don't understand.
Like if the token expires, right?
Okay.
The it still stores on a table on the DB.
Yeah, yeah, but it actually just overrides the one that was stored already.
Okay, you override that. You
Yeah, yeah,
just keep overriding.
yeah, yeah. It just keeps
Okay,
overriding. You don't populate the DB. You don't need it.
okay,
You don't
okay,
populate the
okay.
DB. You just override. It comes with a token and a refresh token. So what you do is just override the what you saved already.
So the statement then is an update.
Yes, yes. If you saw my slide, I said you update. Yeah, you update. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. That's fine. Okay.
Yeah, but for most cryptocurrency apps, the ones that I've used, they don't lock me out. Really, they don't lock me out. Like I think one is called Lumo. I don't know if you use the one that locked you out, but that guy, they don't lock me out when I need it.
It depends on the authentication system and how
Okay,
they prevent some kind of nonsense that goes on the platform. But
okay,
I understand your explanation now.
okay, okay. I'm not sure we have any more questions. Mohammed, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so let me ask this. So now, like I feel you're more database token somebody. So what's your reservation about shared preferences, storing it?
No, no, you can store it in shared preference. So I've had a very funny experience of I uninstalled an app, that same app, and I installed it again, but you know what happened?
You
The
came
shared
back with the
preference, it came back with the shared preference.
yeah, that can be tricky.
Yeah. So it's like I've had to, because the truth is sometimes you write an app and some very funny thing like just clearing something, right? Maybe when the user either logs
On
out or uninstalls, right? So DB automatically goes away when the user uninstalls,
yeah.
right? So I've had like a funny experience, and I don't have money to go to police cell when someone talks about especially when it has to do with fintech. So sometimes you just have to guide yourself. The data is really light, and the way Rome works is like if you really check how the time it takes for Rome to fetch data from the DB, right? So it's like it's very split second. You don't even understand what happens.
Okay.
So yeah, so something like that. So to me, if you can handle it properly in shared preference, go ahead. But you have to be very careful. The essence here is just being careful. Because if somebody gets hold of that token, that person can access it. If it gets hold of the refresh token, it can use it to keep on getting new token every single time. All right.
Yes. So how do you encrypt your, like, do you do the encryption of the token yourself or the backend guys do it?
No, no,
Or
the
you just
backend. No, the backend does it. That's why I don't really. The backend does it. The backend does it.
okay, so
Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know whether this is out of scope, but I've actually seen a 256-bit length token, and I wanted to find out whether when you're doing this refresh token like um, sequence, does the hashing affect how the UI or how the Android system like decrypt it?
To be very sincere with you, I don't know what happens in those guys back end. They just send a string to me, right? And I just save the string. I don't really know what happens. Just look at me. I feel that I started writing backend with Node.js and I ran away, and I think I'll go back. So I think I know maybe they use something like JWT for the
Yeah.
token, yeah, something like that. I've heard them talk about it, right? So, but I don't really know much about what happens in the back end. But I could always point you to someone on Twitter like that works on that. I could give you more light on how they handle things on the back end. So,
All right. Because the thing is, I wanted to be sure. Like there are some people that use different hashing techniques. So
okay,
now when somebody now use, I think there is one AES and some other like techniques like that. So if you're not consuming the API, and because there are some times where the token is working on Postman, then you enter Android and it starts giving you headache. So you now start wondering where's the issue coming from. Probably the library that is supposed to decrypt now on the Android side is now saying, oh, this is not how I see it or understand it. So I don't know whether that's you've encountered that before.
I think it will be an over hustle for you, for them, for the back end to ask you to decrypt the token. You know, it will be requiring you using another library. What if that library doesn't work after a while? So
Yeah.
just get the string, send them back the string, they decrypt the thing and handle what. It's easier to make changes from the back end than
Yeah.
changes on the app. Yeah, especially when you're in production. You know, production is a different level, it's a different level of everything.
Spoiler.
When you're
Spoiler.
no, like that is the truth. If every mobile developer should know that production is a different level. Like I've fought many times in production. Yes, you try to be very careful, but trust me, in production is a different level. That's why
All
it's
right.
good as an Android dev. I advise put your app on beta, put it on beta for a while, test it properly. Don't just do the day you are going to production in the public. That's when you upload to Play Store directly and it's live to shock you.
They're there.
So yeah, to shock you. So do a lot of beta testing while you are yet to get to your users. You discover a lot, and it's also help.
All right. I think that's all for now.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Okay, Sunday, do you have anything to say?
Actually, nothing for now.
Okay. So, in absence of no questions, I think we have come to the end of this session. Thank you very much for coming in, attending, and I would like to hear your feedback on this whole thing. How did it go? Let's start with Insikak, Young. Hope you're able to learn new things, achieve. What your feedback?
Nsika, I think you're on mute if you are speaking.
Can you unmute yourself?
Oh,
Click.
Uma, is it possible for you to unmute him? He's on mute and he doesn't know that.
Okay, let me unmute you. Let me see if that's possible. No, I can't.
Okay, Insika, there's a button on your screen where you see the mic sign. So click there and unmute yourself. Okay.
Msika, we can't hear you. So you need to unmute yourself. Your microphone is on mute. So just check the screen and tap on that red microphone icon to unmute
Wow.
yourself.
he said he can't unmute himself. I think we'll just move to Sunday before he figures out Sunday.
Okay, yeah, Omar. Yeah, the presentations were very, very good. Thank you, Pius, and thank you, Insika. I learned a lot, and thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for coming through.
Liam, how about you, Liam?
I really appreciate Pius and Insikak. It was really, really an awesome session. So I learned a lot. Actually, for Android, I am always a spectator of the Android world. So I feel like, let me just what is happening there. But I love what just happened this morning. It is a great uh, improve on the Android um, world. Thank you for coming through for us, as my Oga Sunday has said.
Okay, Abdul Gafar, Gafi.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, my own feedback. Actually, I'm not a developer, as you can know, but I was so impressed by the presentation because I got an eye opener about privacy, about what Android is pushing out in their next version. So I get to prepare ahead of time. So it was really a nice section.
It's really interesting. As I know IT security, you might have about token and
Yes,
not about token.
tokens, the date of duty tokens they've mentioned, and the shared preference. I have idea and build on the existing one that I have during the section. Like it's someone raised a point here that for fintech app, it's more important to log them out after some section, maybe inactivities, which are you reason with in. So I don't know if the presenter is still on the call to give more explanation why he would prefer someone not to be logged out. Hello, Umar.
Yeah, he can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm not saying that you should not be locked out if you are. So the thing is, I believe the duration is just too fast for some apps. It's just too fast. That's my own take. Um, so when you say security and if you're, I saw a message that says it's more of privacy, bank balance, your BVN, transaction history, and location. That's why some apps introduce something like hide your balance, right? So you can hide your balance. So, but for BVN, I'm saying like, I don't know if somebody can actually steal money from your bank account with your BVN. I don't know how that works, but if those informations are critical, it's good to log out. But I think the duration is just too fast. I use GT Bank, but they're not my prime. I just receive money in GT Bank and I move it to my Bata because that's where I have more like a amazing experience. So, but if they are focused on security, some users may appreciate it, some users may not. So, but depending on your own use case, what works for that product is the best thing that the developers or the owners of the product should accept to happen. So that's what I can say about that.
Okay, and part of the things that I learned about not accepting permissions anymore, so that it happens in background. Well, that's crazy. So I need to do a lot of research. I need to go ahead and know a lot of things about that. Thanks for the section, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Abdul Gafar. Isa, do you have anything to say?
Not really.
It has been an interesting session so far, and I have learned a lot from it. Thank you very much.
Okay. Where about Ahmad? Ahmad, are you there? Ahmad Sani? Oh, okay. It seems like Insikak is back.
I'm here.
Insikak, you
I
know?
can hear you.
Okay, okay, okay.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay, okay. Let Ahmad talk first. Ahmad.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would like to say that. Yeah. So I learned quite a lot, even though I'm not a full Android developer, but I'm more or less interested in some of the new things we're going to be seeing in Android 11, and also use this opportunity to get to meet the community, especially Android developers. So, based on some of the projects we are currently working on in our company, it involves lots of fintech. So, more or less, if I'm to use the popular adage, killing two birds with a stone. So, thank you so much for having us here.
Okay. Thank you very much. Insikak? Are you there? Insikak Nyong? Okay, you can talk now, Insikak.
We actually have two Nsikaks on this call.
All right.
So I
Thank you very much for the presentation.
I actually wanted to see that.
okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, all. We
Okay.
really appreciate it.
Thank you, Zika Thompson, for your presentation.
Nsikak, welcome to Nigeria. That's how we roll.
So thank you very much.
Memuna anything. Memuna hasn't said anything. Right? Memuna said
Yeah,
something.
I
Yeah.
even forgot to. I did see Mimunat. I think she's the only lady here. All right. I think after Absat.
Hello. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Good afternoon. Actually enjoying the presentation from the two speakers. I'm not an Android developer. I think the first time I met Mr. I asked him if he was an Android developer. And luckily enough, he said yes. And I just guessed. Uh, I enjoyed the presentation anyway, and it's like I'm loving Android 11 already. So it's like I want to change my phone soon. Actually, I'm not an Android developer, so I'm not interested in the coding thing, but I just want to use it and see. So thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I think Insikak, you guys met together at Unyo, I think last year, right? She was
Yeah,
at
yeah,
Unyo.
yeah, yeah. She I saw her in a session and she came very quiet, but she was fire in her session. So maybe she was reserving some fire for the people.
That's nice. That's nice. So thank you very much. And I think we still have about 3 minutes. So, all right, I will just end the call now and stop recording. So, thank you very much. Jessica,
All right.
Pius,
Thank you.